All right, today we're going to start naming some of these organic compounds, and we're going to use a system called the IUPAC system. IUPAC stands for International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry. You don't need to know that. But you do need to know the prefixes listed in the table in your book on page 368 in table 12.1. You need to have those prefixes memorized, like the back of your hand. You need to know those prefixes. As far as how many carbon atoms there are, as to which prefix goes with which one. Okay, so make sure you memorize those. And so far, everything that we're going to be naming today is in the alkane group, which is what we said yesterday. Those are saturated hydrocarbons. And so all of the ones that we're naming today, if they are alkanes, they have all single bonds, they are all going to end in an ANE. And they will start with whatever prefix goes with that from table 12.1. So if I look at something relatively simple like this one, where I just have 5 carbons straight in a row, if you look at the table, you will see that 5 carbons has a prefix of pent, or a base of pent, and so this is going to be called pentane. And if everything is just in a straight line, a lot of times, and there's nothing else attached to it, sometimes we just call it N-pentane. I've been told that that stands for normal pentane. I'm not entirely sure if that's true, but a lot of times if it's just a simple straight chain carbon and nothing else is attached to it, they will put an N in front of it. So N-pentane. So we can also have all sorts of things attached to these main chains. So what you're going to have to do when you name it, first of all, is to identify the longest carbon chain in the compound. And so you're going to have to be careful because sometimes these will curve around and you have to watch to make sure that you do indeed have the longest chain. And I kind of alluded to this a little bit yesterday, but if you put your pencil on one end of it and you trace all the way through it, and you don't ever pick your pencil up, that's how you're going to be able to figure out what the longest chain is. Now in this one, it's not going to make any difference whether I start here and go to the end, or whether I start here and I actually curve around and go this direction, because it's the same number of carbons either way. Okay, so if I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's going to be a hexane, and then I have to look at what's attached to it. Now, what's attached to it can also be carbons with hydrogens attached to them. And on page 369, he has a list of common alkyl groups. Now, he tells you that you have to have these memorized. I am not going to require you to know all of them. You need to know methyl, which is 1 carbon. You need to know ethyl, which is 2 carbon. And you need to know propyl, which is 3 carbons. I tried really hard to make sure that in your assignments, and I don't think there's any in the book, although I've given you some other stuff to do as well. I don't believe I put any isopropyls on there. Isopropyl would be the extent of what you would have to know as far as the groups that are attached. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, the first 4 things in the table, I do not expect you to know the names for all those different butyls. Now, if you go on to take organic chemistry, yes, you will eventually have to know those, but I'm more interested right now that we just get the basic naming system down. So if you know methyl, methyl, ethyl, and propyl, you're going to be fine. Okay, so here I have a methyl group hanging off of it because it's just 1 carbon, but this methyl group could be off of this one, it could be off of this one, it could be off of that one, so I have to specify which number it's hanging off of. So here, you also want to make sure that you number the carbons in the main chain so that you have the lowest possible number. So if I start numbering here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, this methyl is hanging off of the number 2 carbon. So the name of this compound is going to be 2, and then a hyphen, and then methyl. And then because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 carbons in a chain, it's going to be 2-methyl hexane. And methylhexane is all run together as one word, okay? Here is a trick that if you remember this, it will keep you from making a mistake. You should never have a methyl group, an ethyl group, a propyl group. You should never have it hanging off the number 1 carbon, because if you do, that means it's actually part of that main chain. So that you can see here, if I would erase this and I'd say, oh, I have a CH3 group hanging off up here. No, you really don't, because that would just make it a longer chain. And now in place of a hexane, it would be a heptane, okay? If you're taking notes, I don't want to confuse you there, so I'll put that back the way it was, okay? But you should never have an alkyl group, a methyl, an ethyl, a propyl, should never have anything off the number 1 carbon, because that just means you didn't find the longest chain, okay? So let's look at this one here. What's my longest chain here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 2 carbons hanging off here, but if I try to go here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that wouldn't be the longest chain. So the longest chain here is the one going straight across. It is going to be a heptane because there are 7 carbons in it. And I have 2 carbons hanging off together, so that's going to be an ethyl group. So it's hanging off the 4th carbon. So this one will be 4 hyphen ethyl heptane. Okay. All right, so here I started writing them with CH3s and CH2s, so you could get the hang of doing them depending on how it's written for you. So here again, where is my longest chain? You'll notice here I've got 2 groups hanging off of it. So here I have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is my longest chain. If I would try to curve it around and do it a different way, I can't come up with anything longer than this 5 carbon chain. But I have a methyl off one side and a methyl off the other side. And so since I have 2 methyls, it is now going to be called a dimethyl to show that I have 2 methyl groups. And I also have to specify where these groups are hanging off of. So both of these are hanging off the number 3 carbon. So the way I name this, I have to give a number for both of them. So it's going to be 3, 3 hyphen dimethyl, and I'm going to run into my next one, dimethyl pentane, all one word, 3 dimethyl pentane. All right. If they're hanging off 2 different ones, then obviously you're going to have 2 different numbers. You have to number your longest chain in a way so that the numbers that you have are going to be as small as possible. So if I look at my longest chain, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I've got 7 in a chain. Now if I number it from this end, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, my methyl groups are going to be hanging off of a number 4 and a number 6 carbon. But if I number it from the opposite end, 1, 2, 3, 4, if I number it from this end, it's going to be a number 2 and a number 4. So I would have to make this one down here my number 1 carbon so that my alkyl groups hanging off have the lowest possible numbers. So this one is going to be 2, 4 hyphen dimethyl, and how many did I say? 7 dimethyl heptane. Okay, 2, 4 dimethyl heptane. Alrighty. Now, what if I have 2 different groups hanging off of it? So here, the chain going across is still the longest chain. And so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got 9 carbons, so that's going to be a nonane. Not no name, haha, but a nonane. And so that's going to be my base name. I have a methyl group hanging here, and I have a propyl group hanging off here because I've got 3 carbons. So there's a propyl group. I want to number it from the left-hand end. I want to start down here and make this one number 1 because that will give me the lowest possible numbers. But which one do I name first? Do I name the methyl group or do I name the ethyl group first? Or I'm sorry, the propyl group. Well, the the groups have to be named in alphabetical order. So this one starts with M and this one starts with P. So the M is going to come first. So the methyl group is hanging off of the number 3 carbon. So it's going to be 3-methyl. Then I have a propyl group and it's hanging off the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th carbon. So it's 3-methyl-5-propyl. And then I had, was it 9, 6, 7, 8, 9? Yeah, 5-propyl nonane. Okay, so if you have numbers that are coming together, you're going to separate them with a comma, but anytime you have numbers and words, you're going to separate them with a hyphen. Okay, so 3-methyl-5-propyl nonane. Sometimes you will see an ethyl group written as C2H5, and so just because it's not written like this one here, or I could have written it CH2 and then CH3, you'll also see it written in a big chunk as C2H5. This is also an ethyl group. So here, my longest one, I've got 2 carbons this direction and 2 carbons this direction. So there's nothing tricky here as far as the number in a chain. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in my parent chain. I again want to number it so that I have the lowest possible numbers. If I start from this end, I have a group hanging off the number 3 and off the number 5. If I start from this end, I have groups hanging off the number 2 and the number 4. So that means this carbon needs to be number 1. So I'm also going to have to put my substituents in alphabetical order. Methyl and ethyl. Ethyl obviously comes first. So I'm going to name the ethyl group first. The ethyl is hanging off the number 4 carbon. So this is going to be 4-ethyl, and then a hyphen. The methyl group is hanging off the number 2 carbon, 2-methyl, and then I had 6 carbons in the main chain, so that's going to be a hexane. Okay? Down here, on this one, again, the longest chain is going to be the one going horizontally, which makes it easier. I have 3 groups, but if I have a choice, I want the lowest possible numbers. If I start from this end and make this one my number 1, I have a 2, a 3, and a 5. If I start from this end, I have a 2, a 4, and a 5. So 2, 3, 5 is better than 2, 4, 5. So the first number takes priority. So I'm going to have a 2 either way. So I'm going to number it from this end because then all of my numbers are the lowest one. If you have a choice, and you'll notice up here, I said this was going to be 2, 4. The lowest number, the first number always has to be the lowest number possible. But this one, I had to think a little bit further because I had a number 2 no matter which end I named it from. So on this one, I'm going to have a 2, 3, 5. Now there are 3 of them, so now that's going to be a trimethyl. And I have 4, 5, 6 of them. So that's going to be 2, 3, 5 trimethylhexane. Okay. I put one up here that is one you really have to watch out for. Because again, you've got to make sure that you're getting your longest chain. And so I'm going to erase all of these hydrogens just because it's going to make it a little easier for us to see the carbon backbone behind it. Notice that even though I'm going to erase that, that's not the proper way to write it. I went ahead and put it up here that way initially, but I want you to be able to see these carbons easily on the video. So I'm going to erase the hydrogens, not because they don't belong and not because I shouldn't have them written there, but just because I want you to be able to see the carbon chain easily. So that's the only reason I'm erasing them. Okay, so now you can see the carbon backbone pretty easily. So where's my longest chain? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the top. But if I go down here, I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I can actually get up to 10 in a chain if I go this direction and take this as my longest chain. Okay, so now I need to look at it, see what's hanging off of it. All right, I have a methyl group here, I have a methyl group here, I have an ethyl group there. Which end do I number from to give it the smallest possible numbers? Well, from this end, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the first number is a 6. If I start numbering from this end, my lowest number is a 4. So this needs to be my number 1 carbon right here. If I look at it in alphabetical order, I have methyl groups and ethyl groups. Ethyl's going to come first. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ethyl. 5 ethyl. Then I have 2 methyl groups hanging off the number 4 carbon. So it's going to be 4, 4 dimethyl. And I would write it out there, but I really don't want to write on my paint. So I'm just going to write it down here. Dimethyl decane. All right. So again, watch for that longest chain and make sure that you don't get tricked if it's written a different way and you actually have to do some curving around. All right, here's some cyclo compounds to name. And remember that when I gave you some examples of when you draw them like this, that the hydrogens aren't there, but that doesn't mean that they're really not there. It just means that we're not drawing them. So how many points do I have on this? Well, that's a hexagon. So that's going to be a hexane base. It's in a circle. So this is simply named cyclohexane. Okay. Now, I hadn't used any halogens yet, but you can stick a halogen off of actually any of these. And so if you stick a halogen off of it, you would use bromo, chloro, fluoro, as the name to indicate what's hanging off of it. So this one, since I have a bromine hanging off of it, this one is going to be bromo cyclohexane. You'll say, wait a minute, you didn't put a number on there. Well, it's a circle. I can start numbering anywhere I want to. And so obviously I have to give it the lowest number. So it would be 1 bromocyclohexane. But we're like, obviously it's going to be number 1, so you don't have to put the number 1 there because that is going to be the number 1 carbon. Now, if you have more than 1, then you're going to have to number them because I could have the chlorines next to each other. I could have them a couple apart. I could have them directly across from each other. And if you get into, when you actually take organic chemistry, you'll find that there are some other ways to name that, but we're going to keep it simple right now. And so here, if it doesn't really even matter which one I put as 1, because if this is 1, then this is 3. If this is 1, then this is 3. You can number clockwise. You can number counterclockwise. You can start on any one of them you want. It doesn't matter. One of them has to be number 1, and then you need to number a cyclo compound in such a way so that you have the lowest possible numbers. So this one would be named as 1, 2 dichloro, notice that the prefix is there again, dichloro cyclohexane. Okay? All right, so the first crash course in how to name saturated hydrocarbons, all alkanes. All right? If you have any questions, make sure you email me.